Why is it that we avoid digging into, what do you want to call it, our past, our present, our future, our consciousness, to like unveil these treasures?
Because we've been conditioned, we've been trained that we want to chase pleasant sensations and avert anything that feels uncomfortable. Like, we literally stop kids expressing on how they feel. Like, when they're expressing something, we say, don't make that noise. Like, oh, you're affecting people. But they're just actually fully feeling the feeling in the moment. Like, I was just watching my son this morning for half an hour, and he would go from one moment like doing his thing, playing, next moment like just having this moment where he expresses himself with full emotion for 4 seconds, and then the next second he's just chuckling to himself. And I went, wow, like he just felt energy flow through him, expressed it, and then there's no carrying of it in the future. Animals are the same. If you look at an animal, there's a great video that you can search on the internet where a hyena has been taken by a leopard, and the leopard has the hyena in, not the hyena, it's a one of their kudus or something like that, um, has its neck in the experience, and it looks like it's eating it and killing it, and the animal plays like is in this place, is like, oh my god, I'm about to be killed, and then a lion or something comes, and leopard sort of looking and everything like that, and then eventually like runs off. And you watch the animal that's left there, it's not doing anything. Then it suddenly starts breathing really deep and heavy, feeling the full emotion. Then it starts shaking everything, and then it bounces off, and then literally just walks off. And then there's still a leopard there, there's a lion, and it doesn't carry any of the energy of the past because it's fully experienced. And if it did carry the energy of the past, what do you think it would be doing? It'd just be constantly running, and it wouldn't be able to live and experience life because you can't get away from these animals there. And that's really what life is meant to be about, is fully feel in this moment so we don't have to experience it in the future. And all our negative belief loops, our subconscious coding, comes from that moment where we didn't feel safe or expressed to feel it. And then, unfortunately, what we actually do then is feel it for the rest of our lives, because trying to avert feeling it is actually feeling it. And sometimes when we're young, thankfully, we have this protecting force, the subconscious, which literally goes, oh, this is too much for you to feel, so I'm going to create a program. And so when even the idea of a negative belief loop, it wasn't meant to be negative, it was a survival loop. But it becomes negative in the future when you recognize, oh, that situation isn't true anymore. You have to then really feel it. And if you feel it, it becomes a positive belief loop or a thriving belief loop. So going back to my example, I had an awareness that this was one of those trauma moments that if I didn't fully feel this and integrate it, it was going to mess me up forever. Every time I would look at my son, I would have shame about, oh, I didn't show up the way I wanted. My relationship with my partner, I would have shame that I couldn't be in that experience. The event had happened. There was nothing more I could do. But if I didn't feel this, you know where it would go. It would rip us apart. So even though in that moment, it was the most challenging thing, I turned off technology for 2 weeks, and I just felt and felt and felt. Didn't interact with anyone else. It was the most loneliest I've ever felt, to be honest. And which is such a strange time, because it was the most important moment of my life, having a new son. But I was so lonely, but I felt it all. So now I'm free of it. Like, I don't have that experience. I'm able to tell the story without evoking any emotion for me. And thankfully now we have another child on the way, and I can be more present in that experience. So going back to your question, it's just, we think negative emotions are negative, or unpleasant emotions are negative. It's just energy, and we need to feel it. And if you actually look and speak to most people and ask about the hardest moments of their life, they'll all go, oh, that was the most transformational moment, and I would never give that back. Even all the pain, all the suffering, that's who I am today. So if we know that in hindsight, imagine if we came into the present, and every time we started feeling that sensation, that dark energy, that weather coming in, we became the buffalo and went, oh my God, this is my moment. this is my opportunity. I'm going to go deep into it because I know that a huge amount of growth and a huge amount of expansion is about to happen. And it changes our ability to go into it. Doesn't mean it's not going to be hard. Like going into bad weather is hard. It's challenging. However, we can put a smile on our face and go, oh, this is happening for me, not to me.
You just have confirmed some like underlying sort of hypothesis I've had that all we're doing in this whole life is we're managing energy. Time is a representation of how we allocate our energy, right? What we do, to whom we do it with, right? For whom we do it for. These are all just like basically energy management things, right? And then there's the internal mechanism. But one of the things you said that I think it's so simple that I think it's really hard. So the question I have for you, how does one feel the feelings? You know what I'm saying? Like, because we can go, oh, well, you just have to feel your feelings. And it sounds so simple. But I can tell you, going through like Benny, man, there were like, it is like, I explained it. It's like walking a ridge line from like one peak to one peak, and you got two valleys, right? And you, as you walk that ridge, you're acutely aware that like, hey, if you don't stay present in here, like you could slip to the abyss of like lack of caring or like just over consuming, right? Of work or of anything else, right? And so how does one feel? Like, I mean, really feel in a way that allows them to like to honor the emotions, right? Whether it's shame, it's judgment, it's fear, but like, how does one do that?
It's a great question. And I'm glad you actually bring it back to a tangible way, because everyone just, says platitudes, feel your feelings. And some people don't know how to feel. There's many entrepreneurial men, leaders who have blocked the feeling part. Now, the funny thing is they say they're a left brain thinking person, they're analytical, but feelings are running everything in their life. They're just not aware of it because the subconscious runs on feelings, and the subconscious runs 95% of their daily decisions. So that's just a little reference point. So when I think about that is, first you need to come present to the moment, and you are, and when we're present, we're not on our phones, we're not thinking about the future, we're not doing anything, we're not doing any task, we're literally just stopping and being still. Like, that's something about being present. Then I like to engage the breath. Start working with the breath. The breath is your friend. The breath, you'll notice that when something gets really scary or we're confronted, we stop breathing and it clams up, and it's very hard for us. Breath is the energy mover. Otherwise, the energy just gets trapped into it. So I just bring awareness to my breath and invite the feelings to come forward. Like, actually go, you know what? I'm creating a conscious container. Rather than the feelings grabbing me at another time when I least expect it and it's too confronting for me, I am becoming present. I'm leaning into the breath. I'm bringing the breath. I'm inviting the forward. And then you have to actually hand it over to something else. Like, you have to lean into faith. You have to like connect with your higher self and believe that there's some part of you that can handle all of this, and actually has been handling it the whole time. Through all your moments in your life, like, it wasn't Finnian who was handling it. There was something behind it that was just there, present, loving you and holding you, and was never affected by no matter what the event was, because otherwise we wouldn't have got to this place. And when you go through that place, you hand it over, you connect to your essential nature, you connect to that infinite part of yourself, and it feels like a warm hug being held around you. And go through that experience. And then you'll be surprised if we actually create the space for it. The sensation doesn't last as long as what we think. Like, it actually moves through us quite quickly. And then we can get up and move away. And then the feeling might come back again, and we have to do it. And I'm sure, as you know, the grief, it's like the rolling waves. You think you're through it, and then another wave comes. But then what you start noticing over time is the gap between the sets starts extending over and over and over. And then sometimes you're like, whoa, there's a big set coming through. Like, I'm surfing in Panama right now, and it was very chill yesterday, and we're chill and we're just enjoying the sun's beautiful. And then suddenly out of nowhere, like this massive, big rolling closing set comes through of 6 waves. And we just all destroyed, everyone's gone. And then it was clear again. And if you got stuck in that sensation and tried to avoid it, you're just going to be stuck battling. If you just surrender and just float up and go, okay, I trust that there's going to be another period of break, you can handle it. And I feel that's probably the best way to start. And then you create more practices of stillness throughout the day where you can be present with it. So it doesn't actually feel as threatening as feel as daunting. It's amazing when you guide anyone through a breath journey or a medicine journey or whatever space, the thing that they were fearful of so much that they literally have been so fearful of feeling for 30, 40 years, it comes over them, and often they laugh afterwards. Like there's actual laughter because they went, I can't believe that was all I had to do. Like it was almost like, wow, like really? That was what I was so scared of? There's something to that.
Yeah, I think when you accept, because I think I thought what you said earlier, Finian, was brilliant. Like we are feeling human beings, and the science is there. 95% of all our decision making happens in subconscious, and the subconscious is run off like feelings. You know, with Benny, I just was really cognizant that if I tried to bottle it up, it would burn me down. It would be like it was a match just waiting to be lit. So I'd be the guy like, I was coaching out in LA, and inevitably coming back east, you got to leave like ridiculously early. But the benefit of leaving early is that you break through the clouds, and you get these incredible sunrises. And I would be the guy that if you turn to look to the left, like I just would have like tears like streaming down my face. I mean, just 2 days ago, I was listening to this music and I was in the shower, and all of a sudden I could feel a set of waves like coming. And I think the Ben before Benny would have been like, oh, kind of like breathe in, breathe out, like just see it and just try to like, and I had just like I had like I had a really good sob, and it was so therapeutic. And but so people who are listening to this, I have a question about shame, but before we get there, I think people are listening to this, right? You're in Panama, you're surfing. I mean, if you're watching this on like YouTube, you're like, okay, this dude looks this dude looks like super sweet. Um, and but you might be going, hey, we're talking about give it out, like breathe and mastering your breath. And it might be like woo woo, but like that would be great if we were like maybe talking about like this was a granola, you know, like podcast. But this is dying for people who are living and looking to live a max life. And so, can you give some compelling outcomes of people who have maybe had that repressed? Obviously, don't share what you can share, but like when I think of a compelling outcome, like, hey, they were this, people would have said that they were incredibly successful, but really at the end of the day, they were bankrupt. And then after they go through like this sort of harnessing or releasing of this feelings, that they're now this. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think people hear this and go like, well, this sounds frou-frou-y. Like, oh, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just invite my feelings to come out. But can you kind of level set for like, hey, here's what's on the other side of this for you, and here's how I know it works?
Yeah, I love what you said about the danger of bottling it up. I think it's poison. That's what you literally do. It's energy that if it gets blocked up and clogged up, it's like a blood clot, and then it effectively poisons you from the inside out. And so often when a CEO comes to me, a very high powered, multi-billion-dollar CEO running publicly traded companies, they've been the boss. They're powerful, they're great, and they're used to being the alpha and sort of bossing you around. But with me, as you probably can tell, like I don't buy into that. Like I'm like, cool, like great. I love your whole identity and personality, but I see something different in you. And generally what I will say to them is, this is life or death. Like this is life or death. If you don't face this, you know the path of this. Like you literally, your body is starting to shut down. You're not sleeping. You're becoming an insomniac. You're stressed out. Either you will literally physically die, or emotionally you will die. And what's the point? Like, life is for living. That's one of my favorite quotes. Life is for living. And are you really living an expansive life? So I put it into that frame set. And I can generally tell, like, most people think they have a leadership problem or a strategy problem, or there's a market dynamic in the company. And I went, no, you have an internal problem that is creating all of this drama in your life. And the only way to really unlock this is to go inward and face these different experiences. And what generally happens, and it happens time and time again. I actually had a moment recently where someone I've been working with for a period of time got to a place that I hoped they would, but I never knew if they would, because it was so deep and so heavy that I internally knew what had occurred, but they had to discover it themselves. And this person is now completely liberated, can sleep throughout the night. Like, that's a huge thing. I can actually sleep, is now connected to their partner and their children again. The sales results of their company has gone off the charts, and they're working less than ever. Like, that's another thing. They don't need to. Before, their work was because they didn't actually want to feel any emotions, so they created all these different dynamics. Now they just get to be in their genius and create. And for the first time, they actually feel a deep sense of peace and a sense of fulfillment. And it's not that they've lost their edge either. That's another common thing that people think I'm going to lose my edge. And I went, no, you have all those skills that you can drive still, but now you have another energy of tapping into, and you just get to play. You don't have to do this. So it is the only way for the modern leader to do this. Like, the demands of the business world, it's moving so fast, so much change. It requires humans to be more human than ever before. Like, that's really, with smaller teams, we need to make sure we bring out the humanness. And the only way to do that is to feel everything and express everything. And now that's one of my favorite things. Corporates, like publicly traded companies, are bringing me in to get to this level of work, because I realize, how do we unlock the humans more? And we're doing breath journeys. People are going into older states of consciousness, and they're sharing all their vulnerability. They're sharing their trauma, because they realize, actually, that's how we combine, and that's how we focus on our geniuses, and we don't have these negative belief loops coming up and inhibiting our success, because they're there the whole time. Doesn't matter how much we don't want to talk about it. They're running our companies. So we bring that through, and it comes very free. So I don't know if that was tangible enough. It's hard to share like the actual real stories, but it's like, it generally is a process where it's, oh wow, like, I feel better. I'm like feeling healthier. I'm able to lead in a way that is more decisive. I make decisions quicker, which means that then I don't have to do as much. I have more space to create creativity. My teams enjoy me more, so retention increases, sales improve, and then also my relationship at home improves, because I'm actually able to show up as an authentic human and be present to the experience. So it has this whole flywheel effect. And ultimately, you wake up one day and you go, I can't believe the life that I'm living. And at the start, it feels like you're not making any progress. And then suddenly one day, it just like click, and you've stepped into a different state of consciousness, and you never have to go back and live that same experience again.
I think that was a great answer. And I love that you're talking about the humanness. The thing that people have always feared about like AI is that it's going to take, honestly, if anything, it's going to start to automate like very rote knowledge, things that are like one to one to one to one. Like, that's this very like, we're trying to outhuman a like a computer-based task. But what I'm excited about all of this conversation, because I think, to your point, like, you are in, if you're not even already in incredible demand, even should be more demand, because I'm convinced that the next evolution of success comes from who you hire and their ability to be in their being, right? Because we're human beings, not human doings. We're human beings, and I think that sort of like, how do you feel your feelings? It seems like such a simple, glib thing to say, but incredibly complex to do. So when you think about like being, like, well, of course I'm a human being, but what does it actually mean to be? Right? I mean, how does that land? I mean, how do people be?
Well, the only way to be is to be here in this present moment. And when we are in the mind, worrying about the future, regretting things of the past, we're not being. We're actually avoiding the present moment. So the breath is always the precursor to being. Like when you connect to your breath, you suddenly are here right now. That's why in my book I talk about circuit breakers. The circuit breakers, it's a chance to flick the off switch on the circuit and go, oh, I'm not putting all this crazy energy into the system. I want to protect the system. I'm going to take a moment with my breath to come back here right now. And wherever you are, when you do that, you recognize you are alive, you are safe, you are taken care of, and there's not a single problem right here in this present moment. It's all a story about what could happen or what has happened. And it's a constant practice. And it's literally for the first time every time. You don't just get to work this out once. Like I have to come back to it every single moment because the mind loves to take us out. And when we're in that state, you suddenly start, and this is how I really guide leaders, there's an intelligence that we access that is bigger than us. It's how every creation that has ever come into the world, it never came from us thinking. It was a thought came through us. Thinking is just going over the same, what we already know. When we open up to a thought coming through us, through an insight coming through us, it's not us. And that's where you speak to any great athlete, any great musician, author, artist, when they talk about like, whoa, like that was the greatest performance of all time, or that was the greatest product of all time. How did you do that? They all say, I didn't. Like I was just the vessel. Something came through me. It's also why if you look in the entrepreneurial world, how is it that nothing exists of a new innovation and then in the exact period of like a couple of days period, 30 different companies all around the world start the exact same company? They weren't communicating. They couldn't copy it. Is because suddenly someone accessed an intelligence that we all have access to through the universal mind or the field. And then once it's come into the conscious awareness of the human mind, everyone has access to it because we're all connected. And the more we realize that, the more we'll stop getting out of this story that we need to be thinking people and that's actually really smart. We need to consume all this knowledge. No, like there's a knowledge overload. We need to create the space to allow the new intelligence to come through. And that's what I feel like AI is definitely doing. Like it's almost activating the inner creator in everyone. Now, like I used to not think I was creative because that was a story from my year 3 art teacher or something like that. But when you think of it, every entrepreneur is very creative. I'm so creative. Look how I've lived my life now. However, one of the limitations a lot of the time in order to unlock your creativity is either money, because it takes money to hire other people to do some of the skill sets you do, or actually finding the right people. Now, suddenly, I can have an idea and I can iterate on AI and there's no cost. I don't have to have the right people. And it does the bits that I'm not good at, I'm not skilled at. And then a creative endeavor can come through. And it was really interesting, even like I was reflecting back, my publisher has asked me to write a new book. And I was reflecting back when I wrote my last one, which was just a couple of years ago. I didn't like AI it was just coming into vogue and the common thing. I didn't really use it. And now I suddenly like spent half a day, not even half a day. I spent a couple of hours, like literally just downloading all my thoughts on different book concepts. And then suddenly I like went on this journey, just like iterating different ideas. And that probably would have taken me months to do. Like now I have some like really distilled ideas that are clearer through me. And now I still have to go like create it and write it. But gee, it helped me. It was an incredible thinking partner.
Talking about space, a book I read in the last year was called The Comfort Crisis. And one of the things he talks about, the biggest precursor to creativity is boredom. And we avoid boredom like the plague, like the absolute plague. So I love that you're talking about creating that space. And when you talk about like, hey, these possibilities, I had someone recently tell me there's thoughts that you have, and then there's like there's the existence of God, but there is this little, and in my brain, I'm imagining this little thin thing going, like thin layer going around like the world. And he said that there's something that comes from you, there's something that comes from God, and then there is something that comes from the ether. And he goes, I define the ether as like what is you we don't even humanly fully understand, but it's like the possibilities there. And um, so where do you feel like when someone, an artist says like, hey, it comes to you, like it just came to me, like where does that, where in your mind do you feel like that comes from?
So I've referenced it in my book. I've called it the universal mind, and it's this idea of it's almost like the library of consciousness, that everything that has ever been created and ever will is already there. Like this idea of time and space, it doesn't exist. It's all here right now. It's one unfolding of the now, and it's the potentiality is all there. We have to get to the right conditions for it to unfold and unlock. And that's why we're seeing so much innovation right now, is because our conscious awareness is becoming more aware. So we're able to unlock the things that we couldn't see before, but now we see. And it's just our ability to actually like be open to it and see it. And we know that because think of all the different belief changes you've had in your life, where before you thought it was this reality and now you see reality very different. Did anything actually change, or was it your perspective of the reality that changed? Like that situation was already there. You just couldn't see it. So that's how I feel it. And you could literally say that is the mind of God. Like that's sort of how I connect with. It's this source of energy, this field of energy, and physics has proven this now. There's the universal field, the unified field, which is just omnipotent, and it's omnipresent and omnificent, and it's available to us. And that is our role. And CEOs, like their most important role is they are the person who can have the space. Like there can't be, if you have every minute of your day allocated to meeting and stuff, you're just dealing with the familiar. No innovation is going to come through. So one of the most important things I do in CEOs' calendars is create intentional space. And it's a really hard conditioned thing because they're like, but I'm the leader. I'm meant to be working harder than ever. I went, no, you're the one who needs to work less, because then the genius ideas can come through. And we have to change the definition of work. Work isn't about time or hardness. It's just about your contribution. And each of us have different zones of genius that we need to be focusing on in contribution. And that's something which is confronting for people.
Yeah. So when you talk about space, is there like an ideal? So anyone who's listening to this right now, if you go, hey, if you want to just have experienced this, how much space do you think on average people need to be able to have that sort of like, to get to that, like that threshold? Like in flight, we call that the V1, right? You know, we got enough speed that where we can start to actually think about getting like and rotate off, right? We got enough speed to get lift. How much space have you found on average that people who need to be in those creative space, or people who may actually not need, I'm going to take the back, who want to be in that, how much space do we need?
Well, it's a funny question. Question is a paradox. Even the idea that we need a certain amount of space is we're now going through the limited construct of time. Like everything is unfolding in the present moment. It's already here. We just have to be aligned to it. Even the idea of manifestation, you're not really manifesting anything. You're just aligning to what already is. So presence blesses presence. And that can happen in the spontaneous of a moment. So if you think of a flower blossoming, like it's there and then suddenly it just blossoms. It was that one moment of potentiality that enabled it. So it can happen just even in a split second. Like you literally drop in for a moment, you have a breath, you may have a moment of insight. Obviously the odds probably improve the more regular moments you give yourself. And that's the beauty of this. When I start with people is like, I don't focus on, oh, you have to do hours. I'm just every so often just checking with your breath. and start there and just see how that feels. And then maybe let's go for a walk without listening to a podcast. Like, remember when we used to walk without listening to something? Where the ego has got addicted to consuming information because it makes us feel good that we've done something, but then we're not allowing anything new to come through. It's why, like, Archimedes had the greatest insight while he was having a bath, because he wasn't thinking. He was just like soaking and relaxing, and he was out of his mind. And then some insight came through, and it's eureka. I undiscovered the formula of buoyancy, which I've been trying to work. I've been using my mind for years to try to work this out. And as soon as I got out of my mind, the answer came to me.
Huh. So the construct of time is not about like what do you schedule, don't schedule, but it's about what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you're talking with people, it's about getting them from the past and future to be in the presence, because when you're in the presence, you can't necessarily be in your mind.
Correctly. And in the present moment, you can then use your mind as a tool and you can direct it. But the presence is where the magic happens. So, for example, when I'm coaching someone, the most important thing for this to be successful is for me to drop into presence. I have to get in a place where Finnian gets out of the way. And then when I'm in presence and I help the other person get in presence, we are now in a joint experience, and things will just start showing up and popping through. And it'll be this really beautiful experience where I'll be like, whoa, that was a good one. Like, it's like, actually, I'm witnessing the information to come through. And I don't claim that that was me. I was just a vessel in that experience to reflect something back. And that's why I focus on returning leaders to presence, because when we're in the presence, we already know. I never really help leaders like I don't tell them what they need to do. I help them discover what they need to do. Sometimes I tell them what behavior they need to do or how they're hurting themselves. And I'm like, no, you need to change this direction. Like, I'm not just a person who asks questions and just like leaves it up to them. Like, sometimes people need advice, but ultimately the biggest things, like, they're the expert in their space. I just need to help them trust their expertise more, trust their own intuition. And intuition is very funny, because I actually thought about writing a book saying, don't trust your intuition. Because a lot of people think is their intuition is actually a coded program. It's a fear-based program. And I share the story of, think of all the people who are scared of flying. Their intuition is telling them, don't get on the plane. But that's not their intuition. That's literally a fear-based program. Like, everyone else is flying on the plane. However, if a pilot who is flying for 30 years one day gets this instinct, I shouldn't get on the plane, I am, yes, follow that. Like, don't get on the plane. Like, that's now not a fear-based program. That's actually intelligence coming through you. So part of what we do a lot of the time to start with is to help them train their intuition and connect to what is actually true and what is not true. Because most of us are running these fear-based programs, which are just lying to us, like literally lies.
I love everything that you're saying. One of the questions I have, though, in this, where does love, well, we're talking about presence, we're talking about beingness, we're talking about, creating space and consciousness. Where does love lie in all of this, right? Because if it's an energy game, right, for majority of, I'm going to say, my hope is that for all of us, we were born, right, literally birthed in the act of love. So where's love? Where's love lie in this, as people are tapping into, not tapping into, avoiding, maybe too much into? I don't know if that's even possible, but just throwing that out there. Where does that lie, at least in your experiences?
Great question. I feel love and presence could be interchangeable in words. So when we drop into presence and we're just really there and we're connecting this breath and we're dropping down into deeper down into our belly and we're just feeling what is here, you'll start noticing a warmth starting to come over you. And there's something which has been here with you the whole time, supporting you, guiding you, protecting you, loving you in that experience. So the presence allows us to feel the love. And then also, when we feel love, what happens? We drop super into the present moment. When you're looking at your child and you're just loving on it, you're so present. There's nothing else there. When you fall in love with someone, there isn't a care in the world. You don't care about work in that moment. You don't care about what's happening tomorrow. All you're focusing on is this moment. So that's where that presence and love is interchangeable. And I used to say like returning leaders back to love, but sometimes people, unfortunately, the mind can grab that, the ego can do it. So now I go, all right, returning them back to presence, but it's interchangeable. It's the same thing for me.
That's so rich. The thing I think about with love, then, like the insidious equal and opposite reaction is, and you've talked about it earlier before, and I wanted to recircle back on this, is the word shame. And I think that we all have it and we've all experienced it. And it's just a real bitch to deal with, because it's not fear, but it's not fear. It's not judgment, but it feels a lot like judgment. And so how do you define shame? And if people are listening to this today, right? And it could be just simplest, the simplest of things, right? Like of a small, what they maybe, it's not that big a deal, I'm just going to bury it. How do people handle shame and reframe that? Like maybe even share for yourself, like how have you reframed? I mean, you talked about your son, but in the birth of that, but how else, like how has that affected you, shame, in periods of your life? And how have you, I mean, because obviously you help leaders, but it's because you've had to redo it yourself.
Yeah, so I feel shame is when we're fully identifying with our limited version of ourselves. We've lost in the identity and the ego, and it's a lack of love. So what do I mean by that is when someone else does something in an event, like, and it does some form of act which maybe wasn't the highest form of their consciousness, it hurt someone, we forgive them and we let them go. And parents to kids are a prime example. We're like, oh no, you don't have to worry about that. But for us, we don't let ourselves off the hook. We beat ourselves up. And it's okay to have some guilt. Like guilt is sort of an emotion where it's like, oh, all right, that's a behavior I don't want to do again. Ask for forgiveness, move on. It's like in that, if sometimes it forces it into a new behavior that's going to be serve us more. But shame is when we're in the loop and it's just a criticism. It actually takes us out of action. It stops us from, when we're in shame, we don't actually do the thing that will let us go. Like we don't say, I'm sorry, because we're too much in a shame cycle. We actually avoid it. This is something which a lot of parents of my generation do. They are now at a state of consciousness where they are aware that their behaviors that they did to their children were not nice. We're not great. But they're in so much shame that they don't want to face it. They actually avoid it and they bottle it up and it kills them. And the funny thing is, if they just admitted it to their children, the children would just forgive them straight away and bring them back into their life, and they would have everything they wanted, because that's trained for children. We are forgiving machines. It doesn't matter what our parents do, like we love them. And it's such a sad moment where I just went, oh, we already know this. You think we don't know this, but we know it. If you just admitted it, you would be set free, but they can't. So the key with shame is we need to love ourselves and we need to give ourselves a break and recognize you couldn't have done anything else. Like it's literally, of course that happened. If you think about all the conditions that happened in your life, that was the moment. Like that was going back to the birth story. Of course I behaved that way. That was all I knew. It was a deep fear. And once you start doing, of course, and you're a little bit kind to yourself and you recognize, oh, that's right, you do have a finite version of yourself, but you also have this infinite version of yourself that is here. And the fact that you are feeling something means you want to grow and you want to learn from this experience. That can be the moment of liberation. The only way to do it, though, is to get out of your own identity. And it's a very challenging practice. It's a conscious practice, but I can promise you, it's easier than the other path. And that's what gave me the strength in that time to just focus it. I didn't want to do it at all. Like I wanted to just like bottle it up and just focus on being a great partner and being this experience. But I knew facing this right now, even though it was going to hurt my partner, like I wasn't in my bright, loving energy. Like you can see my energy, it's very powerful. And when I'm not like that, it's also very powerful. It's like a vacuum sucking energy out because people are used to it. And I knew I had to do this because I didn't want it to affect me in the future. And that's where you have to have such a love and respect for your life that you have the awareness where you're like, no matter what, I'm going there. I'm going to face this because I know from experience, it just gets worse. Like it really does. Like one of the most stupidest sayings out there is that time heals things. Like if time heals things, why are we all dealing with mummy and daddy issues? Why are we like compounding the situation? Time doesn't heal things. Time just actually gets it out of the conscious awareness into our subconscious, and then it starts running our program. The only thing that heals is energy. Like you said, like you had to like be in that experience. You had to face it. And now combine it with time and you've put energy into it, you start feeling a little bit freer. But there's a lot of people who don't put the energy in, and time, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
It's such a simple formula that the word that's been fascinating me lately, Finian, is the word simple. Because it's like an oxymoron. Like simple usually means clarity of like the most impactful things. So there's not a lot of it. So someone go, well, that's really simple. Finian, what you just said, that is really simple. But man, that's complex. So you talk about family and you talk about people around you, your partner, and partner Cindy, and because obviously when you're excavating and you're bringing this consciousness to yourself, right? So anyone who's listening, if they're going through this, like as they're listening to you and be like, hey, this is really great. But none of our journeys are ever alone. And so you like, how do you, what sort of structure or advice or thinking about your thinking do you give to the people around those CEOs? Like how, what did you share with Sydney when you were like, hey, I am so jacked about like my son being born, but man, I am just in a bad spot. I mean, how do you have that? Because I could equally see her going, like, seriously, like, seriously. So, how do we bring our consciousness in and the empathy and grace around that so that others don't necessarily feel or become collateral damage of our excavation and of that like being in presence or our journey toward presence? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I want to let you know I'm not perfect at this. I had a joint therapy session last night. It's a constant work in progress. However, I do notice over time it gets better. Obviously, communication is really critical, but there's a few foundational beliefs that I feel we need to connect with in order to have the strength to be able to do this. One is what is good for me is also good for the other. Like that's very important. If we don't take care of our needs, then we aren't in a capacity to take care of someone else's needs. So we do have to take care of our own needs first. We then need to communicate what our needs are, because if the other person doesn't know, they're just guessing, and that's unfair and it's very challenging. And it gives them a chance to be able to express their needs as well and see if you can, as a collaborative team, how do we create a situation where we can meet each other's needs? And it's not a compromise, it's a creative endeavor. There are ways. And unfortunately, we have this conditioning that if I'm getting something, it means you're not getting something. That's not true at all. There's ways where we could create together. So that's really imperative, and really taking self-ownership and recognizing that like this is your journey and not making it about them. You can see that in conflict in relationships all the time. It's you, rather than I'm having this experience. Like this is my experience and I'm curious about what your experience is. And ultimately, if you do if you're really present with it and you're using it and integrating it, then your energetic state shifts, which has an impact on them as well. So most of the time when someone says like, oh, I've got a relationship problem, I go, okay, let's put that on hold and let's start like with you. We start unpacking things. And sometimes the dynamic shifts in the relationship as well. And a lot of the time it's the way we're viewing them. Like literally our reality is our reality. So if you go to bed thinking about all the problems in your relationship, great. What are you doing more? You're coding your subconscious to work with the universal mind to create more problems in your relationship. And it's fascinating. Like this is something I encourage people to do. If you're in an unhappy relationship right now, or you're struggling or anything like that, try doing something for 1 month where you give your partner the benefit of the doubt and you don't complain about anything and you only compliment the positive things. You don't even focus on the negative things after it. And do like a review each week on a rating out of 10 about how in love you are with your partner. It will blow your mind what will happen. You'll start giving tens after a while and you ask yourself, like, did your partner change? Or did you change? Like it's a really interesting activity. This was something that happened in I was in a forum and they reflected back to me and they said, you're speaking differently about her. Like you're speaking quite negative. And it was that moment of awareness to go, I am, aren't I? I'm complaining. I'm being the victim of my life. And instead I need to turn into creator energy. And I just did that for a period of time. And lo and behold, relationship got a lot better.
What I love about that is it de-escalates any type of power dynamic in there because you are actually claiming the agency. Because if you said this is a feeling game, our subconscious is powered by the feeling portion of this, and what you just said was like, okay, well, however they're being, it's not in your agency, but how you choose to view it, run the narrative through your consciousness. That's 100%. Again, just to be clear, this is the disclaimer I feel like if you're in an abusive relationship, all those other things, what we're talking about is like a relationship where maybe it's either like it's stale or it's like, the stress or like you've gotten farther down you've passed the honeymoon phase, right? So just to be clear, we're not saying like, hey, if you're being abused.
Yeah, and the important thing here is that sometimes I get people to own their decisions. Like you already know this relationship's over. Like own it. Like it's one or the other. Like we can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like you've got to be in the experience to give it the greatest chance. So either get out or go all in and really own it and like give it a chance. Like most people aren't giving it a chance because they're fearful. They're worried about, well, what happens if like I get left or I get abandoned? It's like, well, it will just lead back to where you are right now. Like at least you'll have clarity and you'll have a chance to move forward.
How much is the relational side inhibit the creative, the joy, the value creation, the enterprise growing side of people?
Personally, it's a lot for me. A really stable, loving relationship opens up creativity for me. And it doesn't mean that it has to be perfect all the time. I just need to feel like the stability. We can still have weather banging on the structure, but I need to know that we're stable and we can handle that weather. And when we're in that place, it's just a lot easier. I can access the field more because I feel that sense of peace and warmth and love, and I can just go create from that place. And when it's one of the reasons why I always address the relationship, because it may be the thing that's inhibiting you from like reaching your fullest potential. Think about it. Like you are literally, you become connected. Like you feel each other. So how much energy is being drained by just the constant conflict or the different states where you're not expressing yourself? It's not very conducive to a creative endeavor. But then some people also, it may create for them in another way. Like they may actually create because they're distracting themselves and we're creating. And this is where we've got to be careful about. It's not just all about creation either. It's are you like feeling whole? Are you loving life? Are you living at your greatest expression? And sometimes people can get too focused in one particular area of their life. And yes, it looks successful on the metrics of, I don't know, general society. But if you ask them, man, they're not in a great place. And that's why we've created this network called Omnia, where we're dealing with these people, these really high performing, massive people who everyone else is worshiping, but inside they feel a massive hole. They feel a lack, because actually what happens once you have that level of success, the illusion comes crashing down. You can convince yourself that, oh, I've just got to make more money, I've got to do this and do that, and then it's all going to be good. But when you actually get all that and you've done it, it's the worst feeling, because you can't trick yourself anymore. You know that actually none of this will give you what you need or what you want. And the only way then is to face yourself. But most people don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I'm convinced that you can build a life that feels like a sunrise or sunset, where you're just in appreciation and awe and being aware of the fact is that that thing that you're seeing right now, you're being seen, and whoever else is seeing it, you're connecting with, but you don't even know them. And you'll never see the sunrise in this exact same way ever again. And there's so much gratitude in that. Can you talk a little bit more about the Amya in your community that you're creating, or that you have created? Like, just because because I think that people are going, wow, this sounds like amazing. And they're going, but I think like energy attracts like energy. And if you don't necessarily have that energy and you're surrounded maybe by not that energy, or people who aren't willing to like dive into that presence, can you talk a little bit more about like what you're creating?
Yeah, so Omnia is a space to really develop and help conscious leaders expand. And what we focus on doing is putting a team of experts around you to help you develop your own consciousness. So a lot of things we've spoken about today, and making sure they're all speaking to each other, because that's unfortunately what happens a lot of the time is we find a therapist, a coach, a medical person, but they're all separate, and they might actually be getting conflicting information. So instead we put a team, and we are working with you to give you the greatest expression. And sometimes it's right now what we need to focus on is your health. Other times it's, oh, we're all in on your relationship. Right now, oh no, we need to get you connect to this infinite part of yourself. So that's one element. We develop your consciousness. Then we put you around other incredible people and put you in connection and different experiences with other expanding consciousnesses, and then we combine those consciousness, and then naturally it becomes bigger as well. So then there's another expansion, and then we also have ability to provide capital and co-invest and invest along another. And if we create that environment, we believe we're creating a self-supporting ecosystem where instead of operating from fear and scarcity, we operate from love and abundance, and we all can rise up together. And ultimately, the more we develop these leaders, and those leaders can have the impact across their organizations, and suddenly change starts happening quite dramatically. And so that's what we're focusing with Omnia. And then we also have another business called Cascada, which is a thermal wellness resort business. And it's this whole idea of like, we're creating the physical space where you can have some of those moments to reconnect with yourself. Actually, like, come in, immerse yourself in water, have no technology, no talking, just silence, and have that moment of space in order to clear away the clutter, create new insights, and just feel good. Like, our business is just helping people feel good. Like, it's a really, really nice feeling.
Yeah, well, I think you're creating the ambiance and essential ingredients for people to actually feel that presence, or at least to put themselves in a position to give them a higher opportunity to do that, which is incredible.
Yeah. And we're selling feelings to both of them. Like, that's actually the hardest thing for like Omnia. Like, everyone's always wanting like, oh, what exactly is it? And I went like, one, it's ever unfolding. Like, our commitment is it's just going to constantly keep expanding, because we're dealing with the greatest minds. It's going to expand. That's our commitment. But really, like, how do you describe love? Like, how do you describe that sense of feeling? Like, you ask anyone who's involved, they can't describe it. They go, oh my God, my life is so much better. Like, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a feeling. And similar with Cascada is we can give all the different scientific health benefits of why to do this, but ultimately, when you walk out, you don't know exactly what's happened to you. However, wow, I feel a lot better now than I did when I went in.
Well, they both sound incredible. And at the end of the show here, I want you to give some information of where people can find out more about that. You've talked a lot about like breath. I've heard you probably say the word breath, connect with breath, taking a breath, this type of breath, like seeing where your breath is. And it is, I think it's really interesting to me that everyone is, especially when you're talking about Cascada, Omya, right? They're like, well, what's the tangible thing? Like, what's the tangible thing? Like, what is that like I'm going to get from there? We're always looking for, if I do 1+1, this is controversial. Some people say it equals 4 or 2. But what's interesting to me, though, is that it really comes back down to this thing, the simplest thing that is breath. And again, in your work, and I think some of the people that kind of connected me with you were just talking about how you are such a master of breath work. And I was curious, could you actually talk about either the science behind that, and then also, would you be willing to walk us all through like a breath work, something that you could go, hey, when I'm talking about breath and connecting with breath, you don't have to go look for it. If you just listen to this portion of this podcast, this is going to change your game.
The breath. I want to give it through more of a physical experience so people can be aware of that. So when we sit here right now, you probably haven't been paying attention to your breath, but we have been breathing, because if we hadn't, we would be dead. Like breath is the thing that we can't live without for the shortest amount of time. It's why someone falls down, we check their breath. Like, are they breathing? It's the first most important place. So that tells me that there's an intelligence that's driving this breath without us having to do anything about it. We think we have to like do everything, but actually the breath is just happening naturally. And that's happening by the subconscious. It's guiding us. And it tells us, oh, we're walking faster. We need to breathe some more so we can get some more oxygen into our blood cells. And there's a gas exchange happening between carbon dioxide, which unlocks the oxygen blood into the blood cell, and it opens up. So there's a beautiful relationship happening. What's also interesting about the breath, though, is we can bring our conscious awareness to it, and we can start, suddenly the breath was going at this pace, and now I can start breathing really fast. Or I can breathe really slow. So I have taken over the automatic driving. If we think of a Tesla car, the Tesla can drive on itself. That's what the breath is happening. But then I can also go, you know what? I believe I can do this better. I'm going to take control, and I'm going to now drive this vehicle. I'm giving that breath. Now that's really interesting when we think about it. Like what else of our subconscious programs can we take control of? Like, can we take control of the fact that I just ate food before and now it's being broken down by all these enzymes and it's going through my intestines, and then I'm going to let it out in the bathroom later? Like, it's very hard for me to take control of that. There's all these different faculties which are running automatically by the subconscious. But for some reason, we can do this with that breath. And that tells me that it's the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious minds. It's the way where we can actually bring a awareness into our subconscious and potentially use it to help us unlock what is in there and see if it's serving us or if it's actually hurting us. Because just because the subconscious has a lot of intelligence doesn't mean that it's always serving us. The subconscious is basically a bunch of programs that have been downloaded to us on our hard drive, and 95% of it has happened before the age of 7. That means the conscious mind wasn't saying this is what I wanted in me or not. It was just literally running through absorption. And if you were lucky and you're around really conscious humans, you got a lot of good code. But most of us are around not many conscious humans, and we've got a lot of faulty code, and that's just been running our life ever since. And we think this is true, but it's actually not. It was just a bad code. It was a bug. So when we use the breath, we can bring awareness to what's in the present moment. Breath drops us into the present moment where the subconscious exists. That's all it exists. It's all happening now. There's no time or space in the subconscious. And then we can unlock and go, all right, is this helping us? And then we can actually use the breath to drive a lot of energy to unlock effectively that faulty code and bring it up out of us. And the faulty code is unexpressed feelings. That's the crazy thing. The way the code comes into us is through feelings. That's how the subconscious takes on direction, whatever the strongest feeling is. And if we didn't feel safe to feel something when we were younger, we put in a protective code, and then it just keeps playing over and over again. So we need to use the breath to go, you know what, I'm ready to feel that feeling right now. And then the code gets released out of us. And then we can consciously now, with our adult awareness, put new code in. The code of abundance instead of scarcity, the code of love instead of fear, the code of it can be easy rather than hard. We get to choose. That's the amazing thing. And people think they love saying things like, "Oh, that's just the way I'm hardwired." No, or just that's the way I am. No, it's not the way you are. Like, how is it that person is living a very different life? Like, they've just bought into a different set of code. And unfortunately, this is one of the hardest things to reconcile, because for like the everyday person who's going through a lot of hardship and a lot of challenge, there's every reason to say, well, look at all this evidence. This is why I am. And yes, that is true. That is the reason why you are that. But it doesn't mean you have to keep being that way, because we are all given this same incredible intelligence. We all have access to it. It's just that most people haven't been taught to read it. And if you actually like open yourself up to it and go, I can change anything in my life, and I use the breath, you can become anything. But it requires a harder level of consciousness, because you're actually having to do a lot of recoding. And we know that because we hear all the great stories of people coming out of the slums or people coming out of abuse and whatever it is, and they become free of it. Two people with the exact same experience, one person got free, the other person didn't. What's different? They just didn't know how to access the intelligence. They became a victim of the circumstance. And I want you to know I have so much compassion. Like, just because you can doesn't mean what you're going through is not hard. However, if we keep believing that and allowing the ego to identify with it, we will never have the opportunity to get liberated. We'll just keep staying in that circumstance. So the breath is really the gift. It's the moment to come back to presence. And you can do it just by a calming practice, just like doing a down-regulated breath, or you can do, which like your friend Ben has experienced, like a very up-regulated breath, where we're using the power of breath and breath holds to get you in a place where you actually feel everything that you've been avoiding feeling, and then go through a process of recoding. And people have these incredible moments because the breath, when they get fully out of their mind using the breath, they then are able to connect with their infinite part of themselves, the divine part, and suddenly they feel love that they've never felt before. They have spontaneous healings. They have all these experiences because they're connecting to the infinite power.
I so appreciate you talking about that, because I think everyone is looking for the fix, right? It's like buying something, getting more money, maybe just jettisoning relationships to get like new relationship. It could be in terms of utilizing drugs to chase this elusive like aha. And again, I'm sure that there's like some validity in some of these things. But what I'm hearing you say though, Finnian, is that you are carrying around in your body the ultimate, as you said, circuit breaker, the ultimate transducer, the ultimate reframer, the ultimate like presence finder, right? It's sort of like you don't need to go Google Maps. You just need to stop and touch base with your breath.
Yeah. And that goes back to your idea of simple. It's really hard for the mind to grab onto that, because the mind thinks complex and it's like, what? It was already here. And that's the story of the alchemist, like going everywhere to find your treasure, to only find your treasure within. It's already all here. And that's the whole mystery of life. And see, there was a part of you that chuckled because you get that. There's a knowing that, oh, we create all these situations, all these dramas to recognize that actually it's already here. And this is the challenge: is the thing we are yearning for is to not yearn anymore. And the only way to not yearn anymore, is to recognize what we are. Like this whole searching for God, we already are that. It's all here. You just have to allow yourself to see it and feel it and remember it. And it's so challenging because it's like the dog chasing its tail.
We all have these evolutions. I'm sure you still have this of like this idea of like trying to be there, whatever that is, like, trying to find God, right? It's this idea of being there. In, I spend a lot of time thinking about, and I say, like, when I'm coaching my entrepreneurs is like, stop trying to be there. The perfect version of you already exists. And but I love how you say it, Finian. It's like, and you said, like, stop searching for, it's already here. And I think when you actually just reframe and reprogram and you 100% buy into the fact is that it's already here.
Yes. And it's so hard. I think about it because I'm in Panama right now. And it's a common thing that we know. How often is you start planning the next vacation and fantasizing about the next vacation when you're actually still halfway through your own vacation? And I'm like, you're not enjoying this one. Like, why are you focusing on going home? They were just constantly moving to the next thing. And when you start recognizing that's already here, what happens is you become the mystic. You become a mystic because you then start going like, you're fascinated with what's about to unfold. It's not anything. It's like, all right, what's my curriculum today? That's something I've been working on recently. Like, what's my curriculum today? Like, what's going to show up? What do I need to work with? What do I need to explore with? And things that then used to take you down for a long time, like you still get ruffled by them and affected, like a wave crashes you, but you start laughing at them and you see it and you're like, oh, and you move through that energy so much quicker. That was a moment of recognition in our relationship last night. We have had a few things recently that normally would have been a huge problem. Instead, we were able to go, this isn't, it didn't really take us down for that long. It was just a thing we were able to move through. It was a wave and then we're back stable.
Well, I'm gathering from you, and I still want you, if you're willing to, is actually do a breathing exercise, like actually a guided one. But it also seems like to me that you are asking questions that are really, really simple. What's my curriculum for today? So if people are listening to this, what are like 2 to 3 questions you go, hey, if you just start even thinking enough to even ask these questions, even if you don't even spend necessarily time to consciously go, I'm answering it, but the fact you're even asking the question, what would those questions that you would say, hey, if you just start asking these questions on a daily basis, you're going to start to feel the presence.
So first in the morning is, how do I want to feel today? Like just the simplicity of how do I want to feel? What you're doing is setting an intention. You're becoming a co-creator with the life. You're becoming aware of what matters to you. And the power of feelings is you can achieve them in the present moment. And I'll demonstrate in a breath of how you can actually change your feelings very, very quickly. And what that does is by grounding in that feeling. So like today I want to be present, then naturally I'll come back to it throughout the day. Well, how do I feel present? Well, I've got to breathe. I've got to not be on my phone as much. And it starts guiding my actions and behaviors. So it's not by chance that at the end of the day, I feel more present. I'm not just hoping it. It's going to drive me. So that's a really powerful one. I do love what is my curriculum? Like what's going to be my curriculum today? There's something beautiful about it because it's like a curiosity and it's recognizing that I have no idea what today is going to be. Like we think we know what today is going to be, but you have no idea. And it makes you just go, okay, I'm exploring and recognizing that it's going to throw me off certain things, but it's here for me and I'm going to learn. And then another one, a more like deeper self-inquiry is just being able to like go in and go like asking yourself like what is thinking right now? Like who is here right now? Like just asking these sort of questions where it gets you to go, oh, there's something behind the thing. There's something behind the thoughts. There's something behind the talker. And when we do that, we recognize that there's a more infinite part of ourselves.
The reason why I really love your question, Finian, specifically about what's your curriculum, a friend of mine and a peer of mine, Lee Brower, who was part of, like, I don't know if you ever watched the movie The Secret, like he was featured in there, and he has this quote. He goes, "The enemy of thriving is arriving." And what I love about your question, what is the curriculum for today, is you're positioning yourself of to be a student, of to be accepting of all the things that might allow you to actually excavate the treasure in your life. And I think that it is such a simple question. As soon as you said it, I went, oh man, what an absolute powerful question. Because especially for, I think, anyone, you think that you've reached a certain level. Like, I think about when I had my oldest daughter, Ellie. I was 26 years old. You know, I remember by 26, I was like, I got shit figured out. And then I had my next daughter at 39, and I realized that 26, like, I knew I felt like next to nothing. And so what I love is that you already positioning yourself to be able to go, what can I learn today that the presence can only teach? Come on. Hey, I would love for you to walk us through that breathing exercise.
All right. So making sure that this is not to be one while driving or doing something else. So just come back to it. But you actually can, even when you're driving, you could probably do this experience. Just don't close your eyes. Just leave them open. For everyone else, just close your eyes. And while we're here, I just want you to observe your breath as it is right now. You're not trying to change it. You're just witnessing. What is the texture of that breath? How fast, how slow, how deep, how shallow? Where is it in your body? Just observing. And then also do a little scan of your body and just feel any sensations that might be there. Maybe you notice, oh, my left neck is a little bit tight. Or there's a pain in my stomach. Once again, just observing, not trying to change it. So we're going to do a bit of time traveling. I want you to travel back to a time in your life where you felt a lot of fear. It could be like me, that moment where I was about to walk in and witness a surgery. It could be when you thought your business was going under. It could be when your partner left you. It could be when you were stuck in a terrifying experience in nature. Whatever it is, just trust whatever's showing up is where you need to go. And I want you to go back and relive that experience like it's happening right now. Literally go back to that moment in time. And I want you to bring all your senses alive. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What are you feeling? Touching. Just bring them all alive right now. I know it might be a little bit unpleasant, but you can handle this. You've already been there before. Just feel it all and let that feeling of fear wash over your whole body. And now I want you to observe what's happening with your breath. How has your breath changed? And then also notice any sensations in your body. Maybe some of you even stopped breathing. Maybe there's a closed over state. Whatever it is, just witness that. And now, staying in that state for this moment, I now want you to start guiding your breath. So we're going to start guiding our breath in and out to a count of 5, in and out through our nose. So let's let out all our air. And then inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just continue at your own count. And just notice what has changed just with 3 rounds of conscious breath. Perhaps our body is relaxed. Maybe we're not caught up in that fear situation anymore. We're just back in this present moment. Now I want you to time travel again, and I want you to travel to a time in your life where you felt so much love. Could be love and peace, whatever it is. It could be that moment on your wedding day. It could be witnessing your child being born. It could be just licking an ice cream when you're young. You're just remembering it, or surfing such an epic wave. Whatever it is, don't try to find the perfect one. Just trust whatever's showing up is where you need to go. And once again, I want you to relive that experience like it's happening right now. Bring all the senses alive and let that feeling of love and peace just wash over you. Just notice how good that feels, just being completely in that experience. And then once again, notice how's your breath and how are the sensations in your body. Just recognizing that in a few short moments, we just shifted your whole state. And now you're in a state of presence. You're feeling love, you're feeling peace. And there's a sense of possibility and openness for the rest of your day. And whenever you come back, you can open your eyes and come back to this present moment.
That was amazing.
So what did you witness, Ben? Let's share this for the learnings, which I'm sure everyone else has experienced, but I want you to be inquisitive. Like what can you induce from that? Why did I guide you through that experience?
Well, I think the thing that I realized and that I knew, but like until you said it, was when you said like time travel, is that I felt like you treated it was just a moment and not an existence. And like just that simple, like, hey, I want you to time travel back to a time, not, hey, this thing that's been like maybe eating at you. The other thing I noticed was, I noticed a lot of things in terms of like how, like when I close my eyes, like the light that's kind of like, if imagine there's a screen, like there's like images that come up, So when I was going back, I had seen like this sort of like image of like a really dark sky that had kind of some rain coming down, but it was like ominous looking clouds. And then by the end of it, I had actually forgotten about the clouds. And it was just, and it was so simple. And it doesn't mean that didn't happen or didn't exist, but I feel infinitely more present.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the magic of it, is we are not a hostage to our current state. Often when we're in an unpleasant state, what we are doing is time traveling over and over again and reliving this experience. And why would we do that? Like it just, we know if we go, the mind can't tell the difference between it really happening or it just happening in our imaginary state. Like that didn't happen to you, whatever your traumatic thing right now, but you got to feel it like it was. So that gives us an indication that we do have choice and we do have agency. And the way out of it is 2 things. We can use the physiological experience of the breath, just start guiding the breath. Like I think everyone would have noticed that when we went into that fear state, the breath changed. It probably got shorter or more shallow or constricted. And then when we guided the more relaxed breath, it just naturally made us feel better. And the funny thing is, when we went to the love state, our breath naturally started doing that anyway. It started doing more relaxed. So we can use the physiological to change the psychological, but then we can also change the psychological experience. We can just choose to time travel to another time, which makes us feel better. And then naturally we feel different in that experience. And that may be the thing that you need to do in order to show up differently when you're having a bad day, is to shift your state.
I also found that with the breathing is when I got to that fear state, I actually became less aware of my breath. And that when I was in that loving state, that gratitude state, I was really, without actually even really trying to be conscious of it, I was very conscious of the feeling that was happening. And so my guess is for people who are listening to this, if something continually populates or repopulates their brain, just doing that simple thing, what'd that take us?
Yeah. And you could even do it quicker. That's the amazing, because I had to guide you through it. You could just literally go, I'm going to take a few breaths and I'm going to go to that loving state, and you're in it in 15 seconds.
That's huge. It's so huge. Thank you for doing that. That was what a gift. What a gift. And by the way, it's not something you have to buy. It's not something that you have to like go get a degree to do. It was literally the thing that we've been born with. I mean, it's the first act of life. And here we are. Finnian, this has been an absolute joy to have you on. And just I know our audience is going to appreciate it, but I have deeply appreciated today. Just so clarifying in like so many different things, and really appreciate it. Going back to Amya, Cascada, where can people find more information about that, right? Because if they go, ooh, hey, I want to actually experience that. And you know what? Like I can't maybe get that in either my own communities, or I don't have the team around me, or, I need to actually have this, maybe not only just for me, but to actually maybe change the dynamic or the feeling and energy in my relationship. Like where can they go find more information about those two projects you have?
Yeah. So the website for Omnia is omnia.life. And then Cascada, it's cascada.me, or if you look on Instagram, it's Cascada PDX, and Cascada is spelled CASCADA. And I just highly recommend just like go explore. And the way I feel the life unfolds is if you're listening to this and there's some form of energetic connection, maybe this is the next step. I'm not going to try to sell you, just trust your own wisdom, your own guidance. And you may not be able to understand it or know why, but there's something guiding you. And maybe these are the places for you.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to put links in either the show notes or in the description for both of those. And then also, if people want to read, you mentioned you wrote a book. Name a book, where they can find it.
Yeah, so the book is called Intentionality, a groundbreaking guide for breath, consciousness, and radical self-ownership. And it's in all the bookstores, Amazon. Go on the journey, and you'll get a very applicable playbook on how to go through a process of uncovering what's holding you back, how to recode, and then how to accelerate an extraordinary life.
And do you want to give us a little sneak peek of what you're thinking about writing?
So I've got two different lines. I've actually sort of said them today. One is around the parenting journey, but not as in parenting. Like I actually think parenting's quite easy. It's everything around it that's hard. So there's something around that. And another one is the idea of like it couldn't be any other way. Like it's that compassion and guidance that it's like, of course that's happening.
That is awesome. Well, Finnian, one of the things I like to do with my guests as we see our way out on the episode is to have you give either the what I call the last ripple: thought, question, statement, call to action. What would you have our audience leave with today?
So connecting to one of my favorite sayings, life is for living. How could you live more today?
It's so good. That's so good. Finnian, thank you for being here. Thanks for blessing like me with your time and just your beautiful views and sharing your heart as it shows up today. And then also just for our audience, what a real gift. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much, Ben. Really appreciate you being a fellow father. I'm inspired by you, so thank you.
Well, thank you and appreciate you being here.
Thank you for listening. A big thanks to Elation Lab for the production and creative design. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Keep listening for more Max Life.